back again to do the Rootin' Tootin' June on the Range tag, which is a tag created by Steve Donahue in honor of Michael K. Vaughn's June on the Range reading event, where the participants read Westerns. So I was tagged by Shawn D. Standfast, Gareth at Books, Songs, and Other Magic, and Scotty over at J. Scott Phillips, and I'll have all those channels linked down in my description. So the first prompt is a ways out west. Have you ever been to the American West? Yes. I was born in Kansas and spent and grew up here mostly, with the exception of the portion of my childhood where my dad was in the Navy, and so we lived kind of all over the place for a while. And then I have lived here for most of my adult life as well, and as far as I know, I'm going to die here. The next prompt is Dry Gulch. What's the smallest town you've ever visited? So Kansas is nothing but small towns. We have Wichita, which is like about right around 300,000 people. And then we have Kansas City, most of which I should say is in Missouri, but the cool side is in Kansas, I must say. And then, Topeka's a reasonably sized town, but really it's all small towns in Kansas. So I had to kind of sort that out of my mind and stick with small towns that I have spent a fair amount of time in. So I got that wheedled down to Liebenthal. Liebenthal is, 30 minutes away probably, and it has a population of 92 people as of 2020. Let's see. Oh, how small is your town right now? So I live in a town that has about 15,000 people. Where the buffalo roam. Have you ever seen an American bison in person? Why, yes, I have. There are multiple opportunities to observe American bison in Kansas. What is the largest hoofed animal you've ever seen, other than the American bison? That was a toss-up. I'm assuming that Steve means in person. So not counting a trip to the zoo, because I may have seen something large in the Wichita Zoo, which is the only zoo of any size I have ever visited. I don't really visit zoos. I don't like to see animals all caged up. So that would either be a bull or a horse. So I had to do a Google search to see which one of those were technically bigger, and the bull is the winner. Do you have evidence that you live near coyotes? Yes. Again, this is Kansas. We have coyotes. And if you go out to the country, you can hear them sometimes. Old Doc Frye, what's your history with Westerns? And he has novels, TV, and movies. So with novels, I don't really care for Westerns of any type. So as far as I can remember, the only Western novel I have read is True Grit by Charles Portis. And I read it when I was a kid. And I really liked it when I was a kid. I actually meant to reread that last year for June on the Range. It was going to be a buddy read with Shawn D. Standfast, but I never did pick it up. TV, as far as the TV shows go, I didn't watch Westerns myself, but my grandpa watched them a lot, so I did catch them occasionally. My grandpa used to watch all the Westerns being rerun, like Gunsmoke, Bonanza, Maverick. Those are the only ones that come to mind. And then movies. I probably have, I watched that Zorro movie when it came out, the newer one. And I did go to the movie theater and see that Maverick movie with Mel Gibson and Jodie Foster and James Gardner. And I actually really liked that movie. It was really good. Oh, and I've seen both True Grit movies too. Diamond Little at the Rialto Saloon. I am not sure what that's in reference to. I'm going to guess that it's a reference to a Western television show. What's your relationship with alcohol, and ever had a friendship with a bartender? No, on the friendships with a bartender. I've never hung out any place enough to really get to know a bartender. My relationship with alcohol is 100% random. I have moods, so if I'm in a drinking mood, I'll have drinks, and if I'm not in the mood, I don't, and I never know when I'm going to feel like having a drink, so just whenever the mood is upon me. Let's see. The City Slicker from back east. What do you consider the best Western you've ever read? Which I've only read one, so True Grit. The Man with the Badge. Have you ever been in charge of other people? What's the most authority you've ever handled, and would you be good at it? So technically the most authority I've handled I tend to avoid positions of too much responsibility. I don't like to get bogged down by people calling me at home needing things, or scheduling people is a 100% nightmare. I just don't like it. I don't enjoy positions of leadership. I just want to say, this is your job, you go do that, and just let me know when it's done or whatever. I just want to be left alone to do my job and call it good. And then come home at night and not have to think about it at all. So I guess the most responsibility I ever had was I was, for a few years, the assistant director of a long-term care facility. And really the only reason I accepted the position was just to help out the business itself. I had been there for a really long time, and it felt kind of like a family situation for me. So just to pitch in and help the new director who was there, I accepted the position. I hated every minute of it too. Let's see. The Tombstone Kid. Have you ever fired a gun, been a gun aficionado, or been shot? Well, no on the been shot, thankfully. Fired a gun, yes. So I had a boyfriend a few years ago who was a hunter. And I don't remember if I asked him. I think I asked him to teach me how to fire a gun one time. So we went out to the country with one of his guns, and he showed me how to use it, told me exactly what to do and everything. And I fired it and decided I did not like shooting guns. It made me extremely nervous. The entire time I was handling the thing, I was scared to death I was going to accidentally shoot my boyfriend. I was scared I was going to drop it and it was accidentally going to go off. I was scared that I was going to randomly fire and accidentally hit an animal. Just all these things. And I didn't like it. Plus, it was just frightening to hold this thing could take somebody's life. It was very intimidating. And my boyfriend at the time kept trying to get me to fire it more, but I did not want to. I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it. I had the one-time experience, and that was good enough for me. It ain't the bullet that gets you, it's the fall. How would you ideally like to cash in your chips? So I have two fictional death scenarios for myself. So one of them, I would love to be able to go back in time and observe the formation of the solar system. That's one of these little fantasies, when I'm watching my science fiction things on Wondrium or reading a book about science, that I try to picture these things happening in my head that I'm reading about. And I often think it would be so much fun if I could go back in time somehow and observe the formation of the solar system. I just think that would be the coolest thing ever, and it would just be so great. And I think that an ideal way to die would be during my observation of how the solar system formed. And of course, once it's formed, so I know exactly all the things that happened, I would get caught up in the sun's gravity, fall into the sun and burn up. And then my other fictional death scenario would be to be able to somehow go back in time and observe the dinosaurs for a few years. I would absolutely love to see real dinosaurs roaming the earth and see what the earth looked like at that time, and the plants and the insects. And I would just love to see what the earth was like and really get the real feel for what that was like. And then after I observe the earth with dinosaurs roaming around on it for a few years, then I could fall off a very tall cliff and die. So those are my two fun fictional death scenarios. Which that was a really fun question, by the way. Let's see. The last prompt is tag some owls. Oh, tag some owl hoots. Does he mean hoot owls? Anyway, tag some owls. So I'm going to tag Brian over at Brian MR. I'm going to tag Matt at Science Fiction Reads. I'm going to tag Malcolm at Wormberg Malcolm. I don't actually know that Malcolm really participates very much in the BookTube community, but I'll tag him anyway, and we'll see if he does it. I'm going to tag Fred over at Read by Fred. I'm going to tag Read Becca. I'm going to tag Summer at Sterling Reads, and Micah at Micah Cummings. So yeah, that is my Rootin' Tootin' time, and I'll call that the end of the video.